Have you seen the latest Minecraft updates? Maybe you keep up with the game, maybe you don't. But I can't help but feel like Minecraft updates are getting weirder and weirder. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. Minecraft's all about experimentation after all, so why not throw a few things at the wall and see what sticks? Still, it makes me question what this game's seemingly infinite longevity has done to the creative team behind the game. The latest released update decided to redesign all of the baby mobs in the game, which, okay I guess? I don't hate it by any means, but I can't say that that was something any of the player base was clamouring for. In fact, you could argue that the derpy, big-headed designs of Minecraft's baby mobs had very much become a part of the charm and culture surrounding the game. So, while undoing that does make it feel more realistic, was it really worth doing? Then you've got the update currently under development, where they're adding sulphur caves and cinnabar rocks, complete with sulphur slimes that can absorb blocks into them. And I look at that, and while I can't find any faults with it, I do find myself asking, why though? It's not bad, but it does all feel just a little pointless. And I say this as someone who was in favour of the switch from big annual updates to more frequent smaller ones. While being able to spend upwards of a year working on a nether overhaul or terrain generation rework led to some fantastic results, and may in hindsight be among the best changes the game ever received, it often felt like a slog to get there. Caves and Cliffs was awesome once it was out, but it took 2 years to finally be finished, and even then, several features intended for it got pushed back even further. Plus, they did start to feel a bit naff towards the end. While bamboo blocks, camels and cherry trees are all very nice features that I'm glad to have, the idea of having to wait a whole year for them to come out made that particular update feel pretty underwhelming. The switch to smaller updates has kept the game feeling fresher, with these quarterly content drops bringing some pretty good content, letting Mojang work on some smaller jobs that had been repeatedly ignored in favour of those big ticket items. New creatures like the armadillo, the variants in animal designs, and even bringing back old mob vote losers like the copper golem are all things that I doubt would have had the time to be added if they were just smaller features in a large scale update. Hell, if you want the prime example of that, just look at the zombie horse. That's existed in the game completely unused for years. But this smaller scale approach to updating the game finally let the team find a use for it, which is great. On top of that, the theming of the drops allows fresh ideas that wouldn't carry a big annual update to take centre stage, like the Pale Garden and the Weeping Angel-like creaking mob. That's such a cool idea that makes for a unique exploration challenge, but it would have felt like a letdown if we'd waited a whole year just for that. Yet, with this quicker cycle, it feels more creatively freeing, and Mojang can have some fun with a unique concept like this. Still, with the last couple of updates, they feel like they're already running out of steam. Maybe it's just a lull and the next update will bring us back to form, but fan opinion is already starting to turn, with the response to the sulphur update in particular having fans question what the point of all this is. However, I can't say I blame Mojang for trying some off-kilter ideas like this, nor can I blame it for sometimes being a little short on ideas and having to resort to redesigning old mobs, because when you take a step back you have to ask yourself, was Minecraft ever meant to last forever? Now, the story of how Minecraft came to be has been well told over the years, so I won't go into too much detail, but here's an overview. Marcus Pearson, also known as Notch, was working at King, the team that would eventually make Candy Crush, and in his spare time would be in online forums working on prototypes for his own ideas. During this period, he developed an idea called Ruby Dung, an isometric base building game, mostly inspired by Dwarf Fortress, but also had a first-person mode that let you explore your creation, a lot like how Dungeon Keeper would let you possess your creatures and roam about your base in first person. Notch ended up zeroing in on that first-person perspective idea after seeing Zachtronic's Infiniminer, which is where the visual style that would eventually become Minecraft came to life, along with the open-ended mining mechanics, something he would eventually merge with the base building elements of Ruby Dung. And on May 17, 2009, the very first version of Minecraft was made publicly available, and in less than 2 years' time, it would become an unstoppable juggernaut of a game. And therein lies the problem, because we will never know what Minecraft would have ended up looking like had that never happened. Firstly, Minecraft's rise happened so early on in development, before it was even finished. This isn't anything special these days, where even AAA studios are releasing games into early access. But in 2009 to 2011, it was a big step outside of the norm, and would lead to that shift in game dev culture towards early access as a concept. By the time Minecraft was officially released into 1.0, it was already a cultural phenomenon. The official release happened at not the first, but the second official Minecon event, which really says all it needs to about just how massive the game had become this early on in its life cycle. Notch had all sorts of ideas for what to add to the game, famously talking about wanting to add more RPG elements to it, but none of that would happen, as instead, in December 2011, Notch would hand over the lead on developing the game to Jens Bergson, aka Jeb, who's the man still in charge of Minecraft to this day. Some of Notch's ideas still made it into the later updates, but many didn't. And when he orchestrated the deal to sell Mojang to Microsoft for $2.5 billion in September 2014, his influence over Minecraft's direction disappeared forever. Now, while it's possible some of these things still would have happened anyway, it's fair to say that Notch stepping down from Minecraft's development probably wouldn't have happened if the game hadn't gotten so unbelievably popular over the 2 years he was working on it. While I'm sure the ridiculous amount of money more than made up for it, it seemed Notch wasn't happy with being at the head of such a juggernaut, as pretty much all of the criticism surrounding Minecraft would fall directly on his head. It would be a slippery slope for him as he began to get increasingly embittered and nasty on social media, which just increased the audience's personal dislike of him. Had that never happened, and had Minecraft remained a moderately successful indie title rather than becoming the best-selling video game of all time, it probably would have stopped being updated a long time ago, as the small team at Mojang moved on, and Notch wanted to move on from the game. This is all a rather long-winded way to get to my central point here, which is that, as far as Notch was concerned back in 2009, Minecraft was never meant to last forever. The idea that it would still be receiving regular updates well into the 2020s and, let's be honest, almost certainly into the 2030s at this point, was a laughable dream. Yet, Minecraft's whole theme is that of endless possibilities. As the money kept rolling in and the audience kept growing, there the team at Mojang stood, able to take this game in basically any direction they wanted. In fact, the community was already doing that, with a lively modding scene already existing and altering the game to be hundreds of different things Notch never even dreamt of when he started. So, if they were going to do this, keep Minecraft going into the future indefinitely, they were going to have to lay down some rules. Limitation breeds creativity, or so they say. So when the possibilities are infinite, you've got to find ways to limit yourself, or you'll end up with an incohesive mess of a game. While the team never limited themselves in terms of what Minecraft must always be, and rightly so, they have laid down the law on what it will never be. While Minecraft's modding scene was letting players build high-tech machinery, go to space, learn complex magic systems, and experience whole RPG dimensions, the team at Mojang understood that they needed to be more grounded. Minecraft would always include fantasy elements. Undead mobs had existed in the game since the beginning after all, but they weren't about to let the player become an all-powerful wizard. In fact, when it comes to hostile mobs in the game, those must always be fantasy creatures of some kind. The reason hostile mobs like sharks, lions, and grizzly bears have been rejected is that Mojang wants all real-life animals to be at least neutral towards the player. The only time any animal in Minecraft will attack you is if you do something to provoke it, and that's by design. In fact, animals are one area where Mojang has been careful to apply realism where needed. When the parrot was first added to the game, you tame them by feeding a cookie, which was a nice little reference to the classic Polly Want a Cracker representation of parrots in media. However, it was then pointed out that chocolate chip cookies would in fact kill a parrot, were an impressionable child ever to feed it one. So Mojang rolled that decision back and changed it so that parrots would only eat seeds instead. These are some of the strict rules that bind Minecraft's development, along with various other things the team has said they'll never add. Vertical slabs, furniture items, redwood forest, and guns of any kind are all things that have been resoundingly rejected and will never be added. Yet I can't help but imagine that the fanbase would be much happier with a couple of those features than they would with the sulfur cubes. And other tenants on this never happening list have been added, like baby dolphins and former Mob Vault losers, which were listed as hard no-nos at one point or another, so it's not like they're set in stone. It makes you realise that, as far as official features go, maybe Minecraft does have a limit, and maybe we passed that limit a while ago. Maybe Minecraft should have stopped by now. It would be far from the first game that's hit that point. The problem with game developers who love the games they create is that they just can't seem to stop developing them. The indie dev scene has more than its fair share of workaholics who just keep coming up with new ideas for the creations and can't help themselves but add and add and add. Concerned Ape, developer of Stardew Valley, might be the most infamous example. Just about every major Stardew update has come with the sentiment that, oh yeah, this'll probably be the last one, but it never is. They even went as far as announcing their brand new game, Haunted Chocolatier, but that still hasn't stopped them from developing new Stardew Valley updates. Terraria is another example. In 2020, Relogic released the Journey's End update, which they were firm in their declaration that this would be the last major content update for Terraria. But of course it wasn't. Later that same year, they'd release another update that was rounding out the journey, and this past January also saw the Bigger and Bolder update that added yet more content. When developers truly love their creations, they will just keep working on them for as long as it's possible to do so. And as we look back at Minecraft, the developers who love this game will never have to stop working on it, because it will simply never stop printing money. But now we're 15 years down the line from its 1.0 launch, and it makes you wonder if they're starting to spoil their creation by making too many tweaks. The thing is, if you talk to people who still regularly play Minecraft, a lot of them will say that there are certain aspects or areas of the game that they either never use or simply refuse to interact with, because it goes against what they want out of Minecraft. The deep dark was a big line for a lot of people. So many players see Minecraft as this cozy game that, while it does have enemies and such, it's nothing especially challenging as long as you know what you're doing. Yet, now there's this strange area that infects caves, that gives no obvious resources unless you find an ancient city, and could have you face to face with this impenetrable wall of a mob that forces you to play completely differently. And even in the ancient cities, while they look cool, most people only go there once to get the few unique pieces of loot they offer before never looking back, with only the most ambitious of players returning to show off how they can kill the warden or transform the area into a cool base. Now, to a certain extent, this is fine. Minecraft is a modular game and you don't have to interact with every part of it. However, when such a big chunk of your player base is actively avoiding certain features, it does make you wonder if those features were really worth adding in the first place. It's also fair to say that when you have over 350 million players, you're not going to please all of them with every new feature. But that is very much the point I'm making. Minecraft was never meant to become the best-selling video game of all time, and now the team is looking out at a sea of voices too big to truly listen to. Right now, everyone's crying out for some sort of end update, and frankly, I'm one of them. I'd love to see this strange and empty aspect of the game get some new stuff in it. However, I can also see that a big Nether-style overhaul is completely against the big shift in development cycles they've just made. Plus, as I said before, does the game really need it? I'd love to see it, don't get me wrong, but as empty as the end is, I can't say it's a place I've ever wanted to spend much time in. Maybe it's fine as an endgame location with just a few bits of core loot to find before you leave it forever. Maybe adding and tweaking it will just make it so much worse when all is said and done. Because, as I keep saying, maybe it's time to just leave well enough alone when it comes to Minecraft. Still, as much as I've been pushing this romantic notion of Minecraft finally becoming a truly finished product, I know that's not realistically going to happen while the game is still making money hand over fist. And I certainly don't see that stopping for a long time. But I think it's true that there are plenty of aspects in Minecraft that don't need to be altered, and that updates should stay away from, including potential cool features. The Minecraft modding scene has some truly incredible innovations, like everything that shares the Create branding. but there's no way I'd ever want any of that stuff in the vanilla game. It would be too far a departure from what Minecraft is supposed to be. I think that whether it's smaller drops or big sweeping updates, the team behind Minecraft shouldn't be reinventing the wheel, and should be looking for aspects of the game that truly need more content. Would extra cave biomes be nice? Sure, but I don't think that the game needs it, and I don't expect the new sulfur games to affect my caving adventures all that much. Minecraft is about creativity at the end of the day, so every feature should be a new way to enhance the creative potential, slotting in with things that we don't have. That's why baby mob designs feel so boring, and spears with nautiluses feel so underwhelming. This is also why I've always found it weird that vertical slabs are such a hard no-go for the team. I get that there are other ways to achieve the effect, but could you imagine the incredible things some people would build with them? This is one of the upsides of the sulfur update I've been ragging on this whole time. Mock them for looking like McDonald's colours if you want, but the textured red and yellow stone block will be a nice addition, and I'm sure builders far more creative than me will make cool stuff with them. I'd also argue that the bright white wood is actually my favourite feature out of the Pale Garden update, even though I very much like all of the features that were added there. So that's what I want, but I'm just one in over 350 million voices, so should Mojang even listen to me? In a way, it feels like a no-win situation, and I certainly don't envy the decision makers, who are honestly just trying their best to push through what they believe are the coolest ideas. Ultimately, it's not like Minecraft is going to stop getting updates anytime soon. So, while you may think we're in a bit of a lull at the moment, who knows? Maybe the next great turnaround for Minecraft is right around the corner. And even if it isn't, the infinitely creative community has enough tools out there for you to turn the game into whatever you want.